What's up, guys? How's it going out there? Welcome to the Beer Savages podcast. This is your host Abhinav, and joining with me today is my co-host Anudeep.
What's up, guys?
What's happening, dude? How's it going?
Dude, another beautiful day to record a podcast, and I think this is a very special episode for us since it's going to be on beer clean glassware. So it's very essential on understanding why this is important and how it affects the sensory profile of a beer.
Oh yeah.
We've been there, we struggle a lot. Yeah, man, real quick, I want to ask you on how do you define a beer clean glassware?
So to start with, a beer clean glassware has it's free of soil, free of dust, and free of any residue, basically. And oftentimes we start using detergents which are loaded with oils. And then at the end, we figure out that, oh no, so I have some residue left over, some deposits left over inside the glass. And then, basically anything that has residue inside of it is not a beer clean glass. And yeah, of course, it also alters a lot of sensory parameters as well. You got something to add in?
No, I totally agree, because some of these, hard residues that really stick onto your glass, and also if you don't clean it well, you're going to notice all this sort of those stains and lipstick marks and all that stuff, which will affect the sensory, which we'll dive into a little bit later. All right, so my next question would be, why does beer cleanliness matter for the glassware, and how does it impact the flavor profile of the beer?
That's a good question, and it's very important. So we were discussing before, any residue that's stuck inside a glass is not a beer clean glass. So the cleanliness matters, of course. Like we must have come across, when you pour a beer inside a glass, you see these bubbles clinging onto the sides.
Oh yeah.
So first thing, it ruins the appearance. Right off the bat, it ruins the appearance. And then the other part would be head retention. That's another key aspect of it, where you see there's a poor head retention, or there's no retention at all. It just goes flat right away. And that's another parameter for the appearance as well. And then as you keep drinking your beer, you leave a lace behind your glass. And if that doesn't happen, it doesn't happen when the glass is not clean as well. So that's one more to add to it. And on top of it, if you have any leftovers, any residues, any food particles, any smudges on it, it also affects your sensory perception as well. Say if you find some lipstick smudges on your glass, you might smell cherry in your lager. So yeah, that's about it.
No, it happened to me many times as well, because when you look at it, beer is very sensitive to anything that comes in contact with it.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a high possibility that if your glass is not clean, or like you said, if there's a residual sanitizer left behind, or dirt, or lipstick, or lipstick marks, and anything of that sort can really affect, obviously, the visual appeal, where we try to take pictures of this beer, and like you see all these bubbles clinging onto the side, which is not great. Besides the visual appeal, I think it really affects the way you perceive that beer. So no one would want that cherry in a lager. So so my follow-up question would be, how do you identify a beer clean glass?
Yeah, so there are many tests that you do that you ensure that a glass is beer clean. Of course, when you pour in, you see the bubbles clinging onto it. But the important part is, how do you make sure it's clean before you pour?
Right.
So this is being, so there are two ways: before a pour, after a pour. Before a pour, you perform two tests. One is called sheeting test, and the other one is called a salt test. So I'm just going to go over the sheet test real quick.
Right.
So the sheet test involves, so you have a glassware and it's clean, or you just want to test it out to see if it's clean or not. So you got to take the glassware and then dip it inside the water or a sink which has a clean water in it, and then just pull it out and just watch the water drip away from the glass. And when you have these, that areas which are not coated completely and they're unevenly coated, that is a clear indication that there's some residue over there, some oil deposits over there, which are clinging onto the glassware as well.
Right.
The other one was the salt test. This is very interesting to me I was fascinated when I first found out about it and
Yeah.
played around with it a lot. So this is basically when you have a glass and when you think it's a beer clean glass, you take it and then you sprinkle salt inside onto the glass walls and see if it's again evenly coated with the salt, if it's sticking evenly onto the sides. If it's not, if there's a part of it where it's unevenly coated, then again it's a clear sign of indication that there's something holding up over there.
Right.
So yeah, that sums up the before a pour. Now after a pour, again we've briefly touched on this before. It's a lacing test. So as you keep sipping your beer, you leave a residue of ring behind on your glassware. So at the end of your pint, you might see that there's a nice lacing effect which has taken place in your glass.
Right.
So that's a sign that your glass is beer clean. Sometimes you see that there are partial rings, not too much, or sometimes there are no lacing at all. So again, that's a clear demarcation of glass not being clean.
Yeah, I think it's very fascinating for me as well on looking at these different tests that you can literally do anywhere.
Yeah.
You need a setup of that sort, so you can do the sheeting test, salt test, and lacing is obviously, it will be evident ideally if the glass is beer clean.
Yeah.
No, that's cool, man. That's really great. Some really good insights there. And
yeah. So we've seen different methods to identify a beer clean glass, but of course there are many ways to ensure that a glass is rinsed, washed, and ready for its next service. So I just want to flip this back on you, and do you mind telling us how a glass is washed? How many ways are there, and do you have any recommendations as to what to do and what not to do?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's very important to know there are different ways on achieving a beer clean glass, especially when you look at something from Cicerone. They emphasize a lot on different methods that you can follow to achieve a beer clean glass. So first one is obviously the first 4 methods that I'm going to talk about is very common in a bar or a restaurant. But before discussing all these methods, I think it's very important to understand what detergent you're using to clean. It's very important to know that. So coming to the cleaning agents, you need something like a non-petroleum, no fat, no oil, scent-free, odor-free detergent. It could be anything. We sometimes use PBW and it works wonders, which stands for powdered brewery wash. But obviously that's not the case with everyone. So you can literally use any detergent that's free of all of these. It should be sudsless as well. So coming to the cleaning methods, there are different ways to achieve a beer clean glassware. Number one is in a commercial setting, you have 2 sink method, where you have 2 sinks. In one sink, you'll have warm water with detergent, and in the second sink, you'll have fresh cold water circulated in that sink with an overflow tube. So the way you clean the glass in 2 sink method is, first you take the glass that has been emptied, you take it into the first sink where you have warm water. So essentially, if you have a brush, you scrub the interiors of the glass with a detergent, and then take it to the second sink where you rinse the glass with freshly circulating cold water, and there's an overflow tube right in the center at the bottom of the sink, so that it ensures that there's a circulation of fresh water and it's not stagnant in that sink. And now you gotta ensure that the glass is properly dried. You can put it on a rack where there's a proper air circulation for drying the glass. Otherwise, you're gonna be left with the residual sanitizer and dirt.
Yeah.
There's another method called 3 sink method, which is essentially the same as 2 sink method, but you're going to have an extra sink. In the third sink, you would have hot water with appropriate sanitizer. So all the ratios of detergent to water or sanitizer to water has to be kept in mind. This is, again, you can follow the manufacturer's instructions or what people recommend. That's pretty much it for the 3 sink method.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have automatic dishwashing machine, where I've seen some of the bars and breweries do that. But you ensure that there's a dedicated dishwasher just for the beer glassware. I've seen a lot of people switching it up in a way where they put all the cocktail glasses and beer glasses in one dishwasher, which is not ideal because there's some cocktails that use some sort of this fat based liquid, like maybe some whiskey sours where you see the egg whites and
right.
So do not put those together with the beer because the beer glassware can be affected with the oils. Make sure that you follow the operating instructions for that dishwashing machine to ensure that the water temperature is appropriate, and also the ratio of detergent is exactly where you want it to be. So in the automatic dishwasher, you basically add the detergent and then let it go through the cleaning cycle. And after that, once it's done, again take the glasses and dry it on a rack where there's air circulation. This is very essential because you want your glasses to be completely dried without leaving anything else behind in the glass. Absolutely. So that's about automatic dishwashing. And now you have something on a commercial scale. I've seen many breweries use this, which is Spülboy. So Spülboy is brilliant. It works wonders, and it probably takes a very less time to clean your glass. So basically, Spülboy is it has two buckets. One is equipped with a brush. It's called brush bucket, and another one is equipped with a glass rinser. So the method of cleaning in a Spülboy is put the detergent in the brush bucket and empty the glass in open drain, and then insert the glass in the first bucket where you have the brush. You ensure that the glass is properly cleaned with the brush. Take it out of the brush bucket and then rinse it in a second bucket where you have glass rinser. So you're gonna see all the water coming out of different nozzles inside that, and that'll rinse off the entire inside and the outside of the glass, and then dry it with a proper air circulation. So that's about cleaning with the Spülboy. It doesn't even take a lot of space as well. Like the Spülboy is literally takes maybe this much of space. It's very little. So you can literally have it in your bar and not worry about the space or any constraints that you have regarding cleaning. So it's a very easy setup. And another one, this is very essential for people at home on ways of achieving a beer clean glassware. Obviously, these are the things that make sense in a commercial level, but at home, 99% of the time we use manual cleaning, which is like cleaning by hand.
Yeah.
So all you need is a proper cleaning brush dedicated to beer, and detergent, again, which is odor-free, scent-free, fat-free, non-petroleum based, such less detergent, so that it doesn't give a lot of lather. Let's say you have a sink in your kitchen. If you have access to hot water, it's great. If not, a regular warm water works well, where you clean the glass with the brush with detergent and warm water. You make sure that brush off every portion of the glass on the interior and also on the outside, and then you rinse it with cold water. Give it a couple of thorough rinse, and then obviously, like we discussed before, do the sheeting test real quick, or a salt test, where you'll find out if the glass is really beer clean or not. If any area where the water doesn't adhere, or if you're doing a salt test, if the salt doesn't adhere to those surfaces, that means that those areas require a proper rinse. So that's about the different cleaning methods. And what do you think of those? Like, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, so that's basically it. But just wanted to highlight a few key points. And you were talking about rinsing a glassware, and we've come across glasswares which are Weizen glass, and it's hard to reach the bottom of the surface. So it's just make sure that you get a bottling brush or a cleaning brush which reaches all of the edges and curves. So that's just one point I wanted to mention. And when you're cleaning your glassware in a dishwasher, make sure you don't put in your food dishes as well.
Oh yeah.
Along with the cocktail glasses which have dairy-based drinks. So just make sure only the beer glasses go in and nothing else. Now there's just one more step before you serve a beer, which is preparing a glassware to serve. So do you want to emphasize on that? How do you prep a glassware just before serving?
Yeah, so essentially these glasses that are dried are on the rack, and before you take those and serve beer, you gotta make sure that you give it a proper like a quick rinse with a glass rinser, which is equipped with these bar counters. If you're at home, just make sure that if you have cold water, just rinse it in cold water. Also, the cold water will ensure that your glass temperature is not warm. You may have chilled glasses, which is not a problem. You can still chilled glasses. You can directly use those glasses, and
it also sort of matches the serving temperature of the beer in a way as well. But do you want to comment on freezing glassware? We've come across many bars or many breweries who freeze the glassware and then serve right. Do you want to talk about downsides and why is that a bad idea?
No frozen glasses, please, because it ruins the whole sensory approach on understanding beers. Like frozen glassware, there's a lot of drawbacks to that, because once the glass is frozen, you'll see all these on the inside you'll see all this sanitizer that's left behind will be frozen, and no one wants those frozen sanitizer inside your glass when you're drinking beer. And also, if the glass temperature is that freezing, when you pour beer into it, it's gonna foam a lot. So it's so cold that you will not get a proper pour.
Yeah,
that's first thing. And second thing, even if you get a pour, after the pour, like, it's so cold that all the aromas and flavors of the beer will be muted, because it's at that cool temperature. The beer doesn't express itself, and the glass will hold back all the flavors and aromas because you have all the bubbles trapped inside the glass. It's not released. So that'll affect the way you smell the beer and taste the beer. Chilled glass is fine, frozen glass is not. And I just want to add one more point to it.
Sure.
Do not use the glass rinser for rinsing the used beer glasses, because I've noticed in bars, usually when there's a customer drinking out of a glass, when he's going for his second round, there are some people who request to be poured in the same glass.
Oh, yes.
And if you take the same glass and rinse it in the glass rinser, that is very unhygienic. So it's not sanitary, so don't do that. So Cicerone does this thing called Beer Clean Glass Day, which happens every year on the 4th Saturday of April. So this is to raise awareness on beer clean glass and why it matters. And also, it's about appreciating those bartenders and everyone else who is working hard to give you a beer clean glass. So that's a really great initiative this year, which is 2022. It's happening on April 23rd. Again, that's a 4th Saturday. So we're really excited. Where on social media, you'll see Cicerone sharing a lot of stories from different people using the hashtag Beer Clean Glass Day. So if you want to get featured there, you have to use the hashtag and mention Cicerone on your stories with a glass that has a proper lacing. So tag them and tag us as well. We would love to see your stories on your beer lacing and your experience with beer clean glass.
It's a beautiful sight not to miss. So why not?
Awesome. So that wraps up the episode. And any final thoughts, Abhinav?
So beer clean glass is an essential part of the drinking process. It's the final step where you pour a beer and drink it. And that's how the brewers want you to drink it. That's how they ensure that the beer is served in the best conditions, in the best possible way. So make sure the glassware is clean, or when you go to a bar or a restaurant or a pub, make sure you ask for a clean glassware. If you find that glassware is not clean, don't be ashamed to send it back. So just go for it, and then make sure the experience is right. And then again, the freezing glassware as well. So just make sure you don't entertain those stuff. But yeah, I mean, Do you have anything more to add to it?
Never compromise on the glassware. So
I used to do that. I was a little scared to send it back, but then I've seen people sending it back, and then okay, yeah, you can do that as well.
So we learned it the hard way too, because there were many times we were like, it's okay, it's just one glass, but it's never one glass. It's always
exactly.
You got to hold people accountable if you're working in a bar setting where you ensure there's proper standards met for cleanliness and hygiene. So yeah, as a customer, if you notice all these different things like bubbles clinging onto the sides or lipstick marks or anything that is an indication of dirty glass, so make sure that you send it back. You have every right of doing that.
Absolutely.
So and also at home there are different ways of achieving it, so keep working on it. You'll definitely get to a level where you'll achieve a proper clean glass. There are a few things like I forgot to mention, like if your water source has a lot of these hard minerals, I think that will also affect on achieving a proper clean glass.
That's a good point that you brought up, because I've noticed in some localities where the salt content was more, the minerality was more, and it used to leave a lot of stains on the glassware.
Right.
And especially when the glassware wasn't dried properly, air dried properly, it had a lot of residue droplets in there. So that's a good point.
Yeah. So even in that case, I feel like if you have hot water, if you clean it in hot water, and I think that will really help. Because that will change the profile of the water, and it will make it more easier for you to achieve a proper glass. And that wraps up the episode. And if this made sense to you, give us a shout out on your social media platforms, and subscribe to us on Spotify, Apple, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, and Stitcher. Until next time, join us as we embark on a journey to seek enlightenment in beer. Cheers.